What up, though? Virginia Health Bulletin, March 1924. The new Virginia law to preserve racial integrity. W.A. Plecker, M.D., State Registrar of Vital Statistics, Richmond, Virginia. Senate Bill 219 to preserve racial integrity passed the House March 8th, 1924, and is now a law of the state. This bill aims at correcting a condition which only the more thoughtful people of Virginia know the existence of. In any large gathering or school of colored people, especially in the cities, many will be observed who are scarcely distinguishable as colored. Those persons, however, are not white in reality, nor by the new definition of this law, that a white person is one with no trace of the blood of another race, except that a person with 1/16 of the American Indian, if there is no other race mixture, may be classified as white. Their children are likely to revert to the distinctly Negro type, even when all apparent evidence of mixture has disappeared. Their children are likely to revert to distinctly Negro type, even when all apparent evidence of mixture has disappeared. And something to note, it says, these persons, however, are not white in reality. Persons is similar to someone acting, someone playing human, someone acting as if they were you. It says the children are likely to revert to the distinctly Negro type. Understand, when you know who you are, no one can tell you different. These people, Walter Plecker, the Vital Statistics Office, they're giving you a label. They're telling you who you are. They're telling you who you are as a person, not as not from your people. He doesn't know your bloodline. He's not American. He's a foreigner. And he came to take your stuff. So he's going to do anything to separate you, not only from him and his people, but from your stuff. Because your stuff is for these people who he terms white. Your stuff is not for you no more. In each case, evidence was found to show that either the people themselves or their connection were reported to our office to be of mixed blood. What I'm saying is that none of this matters. Or I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. What matters is the balance. Because the propaganda has went in one direction. And it just so happens that the promoters of the propaganda to turn you into a colored, a mulatto, a Negro, a Negroid type, a black. The propaganda started the minute you entered the institution where strangers were allowed to nurture and nourish you. In each case, evidence was found to show that either the people themselves or their connections were reported to our office to be of mixed blood. To succeed, the intermarriage of the white race with mixed stock must be made impossible, but that is not sufficient. Public sentiment must be so aroused that intermixture out of wedlock will cease. The public must be led to look with scorn and contempt upon the man who will degrade himself and do harm to society by such abhorrent deeds. The Bureau of Vital Statistics clerks who issue marriage licenses and the school authorities are the barriers placed by this law between the danger and the safety of the Commonwealth. The Bureau of Vital Statistics clerks who issue marriage licenses and the school authorities are the barriers placed by this law between the danger and the safety of the Commonwealth. And I hope you don't think this. I hope you don't think these people are intelligent, because this is not intelligence. Don't confuse. Although intellect is sharp and it cuts like a knife, but don't confuse intellect with a disgusting nature that lacks soul. The only way the director of vital statistics, Walter Plecker, the only way he knows of soul is because he's around you. Indirectly. Because if we go by what we're reading, he wants to do everything he can to keep you away from his people. Although, if you read about him, you'll see that he's been around our people quite a bit. There is a plan, however, by which it may be furnished, there is a plan, however, by which it may be financed if the public will lend its aid. Thousands have applied for the registration of births that occurred before June 14, 1912, the date when the old law went into effect. The new law further provides the registration of all persons who desire it and who will make application for such registration of color and birth, remitting at the same time the fee of 25 cents for each applicant. Do not send stamps. These births will be permanently recorded and preserved for all time, and will be of great value for many purposes, such as to prove American citizenship when applying for passports to go abroad, and for establishing and preserving the family tree for future generations. In him doing all he could to preserve his people's family tree, he helped you to preserve your family tree. For the purpose of establishing the true color of individuals for the future, physicians and others who report births and marriage will, as far as possible, use color terms accurately. A mulatto is the offspring of a white person and a Negro. A quadroon is and when they say mulatto is the offspring of a white person and a Negro, this is what he is saying the criteria is. This is what he is saying that the physicians and others who report births and marriages are bound by. Historically, mulatto means a lot of things. And if we're speaking of the census enumerators who were marking down your color by sight, what you looked like, what you appeared to be to them, it means all manner of things. All of this, the entire Racial Integrity Act is truly theater. And it's a disgusting, despicable practice. Something that is unheard of among natural beings. A mulatto is the offspring of a white person and a Negro. A quadroon is the offspring of a mulatto and a white person. An octoroon is the offspring of a quadroon and a white person. Again, if you don't want to take this seriously, I understand completely. Because above all else, it's stupid. It's dumb. It's dumb. And when we think and we say, how did our people fall for this? You have to understand, it's hard to relate to something so unnatural. Your grandmother, your great grandmother, your grandfather, great grandfather, your cousins, your nephews, nieces. This is why they rebel in school. When they're told to sit and be still and raise their hand, this is why they rebel, because this is unnatural. Everything, all of it, it's all unnatural. So how do you expect natural beings to be able to relate to this? Mixtures of either of these crossings with true Negroes should be designated as black, Negro, or colored. Mixtures of either of these crossings. Mixtures of either of the crossings that I just mentioned, mulatto, octoroon, quadroon. I'm gonna get through this. We got to get through this because this is tough. Mixtures of either of these crossings with true Negroes. Now, what is a true Negro? Do you know? You don't know? He don't know either. He don't know. But you know what he know? You know what he do know? The ones with their hair sticking up, pointing to the sky. Nah, I ain't say nappy. It's soft as cotton. It's soft as cotton candy. The ones with their hair pointing up to the sky. The ones with full lips. Even the ones without full lips, because we know that the Americans, that the American Indians, we know that all of our people have distinctive looks. You got cousins and nephews and nieces and aunties and who don't look like you, who don't have full lips, who don't have a wide nose, whose hair don't point up to the sky. It do something else. They have other features. Their complexion is different from yours. So what is he says, mixtures of either of these crossings with it. So basically anything mixed with a European, which, what European is he speaking of? Is he speaking of the Europeans that he would also consider to be Negro or have Negroid features? That's why I said, what is a Negro? I don't care what it means in Spanish. I don't care. What does Negro mean? It means, they say it means black, right? Is no such thing as a black. So what does he mean when he says Negro? Mixtures of either of these crossings with the true Negro should be designated as black, Negro, or colored. So let's just, if we're going by the word negro, meaning black, okay, and then we know the word black mean pale, bleached, bleak. We know black is like when you redact something, when you black it out so that you can't see it, it don't exist no more. It ain't nothing no more. Mixtures of either of these crossings with the true black should be designated as black, black, or colored. Now, this colored word is interesting because in the 1828 Webster's American Dictionary of the English Language, an American is defined as any of the aborigines or aboriginals or the copper colored races found here by the Europeans or seen here by the Europeans. So colored, copper colored, this is the only one that makes any sense. Copper colored. If you have to call a person a color, but calling someone a color now, wouldn't you say that that's a something that a someone in first grade might do? Ain't that coloring book stuff? The term mixed issue and perhaps one or two others will be understood. It says the term mixed issue. So mixed, they're saying, is the same as issue. Like you got an issue, you got a mix. And perhaps one or two others will be understood to mean a mixture of white and black races. White and black races. Since 1924, there is no mention of African here. And this is no slight to anyone from the place that is termed today Africa or properly Afro-Eurasia because it's all one soil portion. No slight. I am just making the distinction and an observation because we are so identified and it's such a, some people have such a romantic, intimate relationship with the term black and African. The term mixed issue and perhaps one or two others will be understood to mean a mixture of white and black races. White and black races with the white predominating. That is the class that should be reported with the greatest care, as many of these are on the borderline and constitute the real danger of race intermixture. So here we have foreigners have an issue with the people of the land instead of going home, or they have an issue with the people of the land. Why did they come here? Why? Why they come here and do everything you do and take everything that you make and copy everything, every action, every invention, create an entire office, an entire department to take the things that you create. The term Indian will no longer be accepted for that class. The term Indian will no longer be accepted for that class, but must be applied only to those of known pure Indian blood or those mixed with white. The ones mixed with white can be classified as Indian. And if the ones that are mixed with white can be classified as Indian, who does he consider who does he think has pure Indian blood? If the Indians that are mixed with white can be considered Indian. Because he also says that if you have Negroid features, you a Negro, a black, or a colored, right? Would you say that all of this is to confuse you? I take it a step further and say all of this is due to the confusion in Walter Plecker's head. See, we ain't gonna settle for nothing but all the way. If there is a mixture of Negro, they must not be classed as Indians, but as Negro or mixed Indians. It shall be a felony for any person willfully or knowingly to make a registration certificate false as to color or race. See what's happening here? It's starting in Virginia. Then it's going to go all over the place. I mean, think about how stupid this is. It shall be a felony for any person willfully or knowingly to make a registration certificate false as to color or race. So what he's really saying is it's going to be a felony. It's going to be a felony if you say you something and I don't think you that. You whatever you say you is, it better line up with what I think you is. This is law. The willful making of a false registration or birth certificate shall be punished by confinement in the penitentiary for 1 year. See, I mean, to be honest, these so-called wars that have been happening, it would make sense if the ones on this soil were still happening. Because this right here, this is the equivalent of an act of war. No marriage license shall be granted until the clerk or deputy clerk has reasonable assurance that the statements as to color of both man and woman are correct. Think about this, man. Think about this color, man. It only applies to you. On these census record, it says they have more recently in the more recent past, they have Chinese, Japanese, things of this nature. But you a color, you black, Negro, mulatto. Don't get me wrong, he disrespects his own too because he called him white and there's no such thing as a white human. But again, this ain't really about color. Maybe the color of law. If there is reasonable cause to disbelieve that applicants are of pure white race, when that fact is stated, the clerk or deputy shall withhold the granting of the license until satisfactory proof is produced that both applicants are white persons, as provided for in this act. The clerk or deputy clerk shall use the same care to assure himself that both applicants are colored when that fact is claimed. It shall hereafter be unlawful for any white person in this state to marry any save a white person. So any white person in this state to marry any, it shall hereafter be unlawful for any white person to marry anybody who ain't white, or a person with no other admixture of blood than white and American Indian. So as long as you American Indian and white, and again, this is 1924. This is 1924. So the wheels are already in motion to make the plains people, the plains Chinos and Romans, Native Americans into you. So withhold the granting of license until satisfactory proof is produced that both applicants are white persons as provided in this act. The clerk or deputy, it says, it shall hereafter be unlawful for any white person in the state to marry anybody but another white person, or a person with, or to marry a person with no admixture of blood than white. And what they really mean is white and Native American, or Chino or Roman, or properly Siberian and Anglo-Saxon. For the purpose of this act, the term white person shall apply only to the person who has no trace whatsoever of any blood other than Caucasian, but persons who have 1/16 or less of the blood of the American Indian and have no other non-Caucasic blood shall be deemed to be white persons. So the people who are being ushered in and are using identity theft to become you, and it's not a good it's not a good representation. They didn't do a good job. Like for instance, you know, when they do a story about some historical figure and they cast an actor that looks nothing like that person. Yeah, that's what they did. They cast some actors that look nothing like us. All acts or parts of acts inconsistent with this act are, to the extent of such inconsistency, hereby repealed. Daily Press, Newport News, Virginia, Thursday, July 23rd, 1925. And you remember the Racial Integrity Act, the Racial Integrity Theater was 1924. I think it was July, actually. Don't quote me. You can rewind and look at the exact date, but it's 1924. This is also in Virginia. Daily Press, Newport News, Virginia, Thursday, July 23rd, 1925. This is 1925. Anonymous letters threaten the life of Dr. W.A. Plecker, Walter Ashby Plecker, I believe that's his name. It says, recent communications were inspired by his stand on the so-called Indians he branded as Negroids. Richmond detectives cooperating with agents of the Department of Justice and the post office authorities who have been investigating a series of insulting and threatening letters received recently by Dr. Walter A. Plecker of the Bureau of Vital Statistics are nearly ready to make several arrests. It was revealed last night. Information as to the identity of the senders of the letters is in the hands of Police Captain of Detective A.S. Wright of Richmond. Arrests would probably be made in the near future. he declared. And the matter definitely cleared up. About 10 days ago, Dr. Plecker conferred with Chief of Police R.B. Jordan in regard to the receipt of several of these letters. The missives contained language insulting to Dr. Plecker and his family and threats of killing. So the engines, the niggas, wasn't having it. Okay? How many in 1925 at the time of this newspaper article, how many Americans, how many American engines was on that police force? Major Jordan referred the matter to the Detective Bureau. Detective Sergeant Frank I. Gentry and Headquarters Detective I.G. Cousins were assigned to the case. Agents of the Department of Justice were then called in, as were also post office officials. The mailbox from which all the letters appear to have been mailed has been definitely ascertained, and Captain Wright said that a photograph of the sender placing one of the missives in the box was in his possession. Captain Wright said that a photograph of the sender placing one of the missives in the box was in his possession. This is 1925. So whoever put the letter in the mailbox for Walter Plecker, telling him that he was bogus for telling people who they is and who they ain't, they got a photograph of the person. So apparently he got caught on the Ring camera. Apparently he got caught on it had to be a Ring camera. It couldn't be no traffic light camera. Most of the letters are unprintable because of the language used. See, that's a nigga. Yeah. The language used, they was cussing him out, man. And it was probably somebody grandmama cussing him out. They are written in pencil, and the handwriting is always the same. They refer constantly to Dr. Plecker's recent statements to the effect that certain Virginia tribes of Indians have Negroid blood in their veins. One of the letters, which was turned over to Captain Wright, showed a postmark of Richmond, July 19th, this being the latest. It was addressed to Dr. Plecker at his home at 3610 Hawthorne Avenue and was signed Julia Marlowe. Evidently, the writer was in Fredericksburg, wishing to lead to the belief that the name of this town stood at the head of the letter. In it, such threat. Wait, it say that it was signed Julia Marlowe. The lady was not, the person signed it. They wasn't hiding. In it, such threats as, "You will be burnt alive and you will be poisoned by our people," appear throughout. This latest letter in particular refers to Dr. Plecker's plan to hold blood tests of Indians in the vicinity of Richmond to ascertain whether there is any Negroid blood in their veins. What? A blood test to see if any Negroid... Oh, what are they looking for? What is he looking for? He's not looking to test the blood. We forgot. He's a vampire. He's looking to drink the blood. He not testing to see if you a Negroid. He can't test to see if you no Negroid and no colored. He want to drink the blood. He want to draw blood. Enclosed was a picture clipped from some newspaper of a mature white man with glasses and a short beard. The reference in the letter being that this was a likeness to a man our people have burned for this. The picture was unrecognized. New Pittsburgh Courier, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Saturday, September 28th, 1929. Remember, Walter Plecker's Racial Integrity Act was 1924. That last newspaper article was 1925. And this is 4 years later in 1929. Virginia's Negro Indians. Dr. W.A. Plecker, the eminent negrophobe of Richmond, who serves as Registrar of Vital Statistics of Virginia, is considerably wrought up because of a large number of people whom he considers Negroes are passing for Indians and are listed by the United States Census Bureau as Indians. Why all this, I ask? I'm asking you, why all this? Because this is the way that the rug gets pulled from under your feet. Let's shake it. A large number of people whom he considers Negroes are passing for Indians. How could a Negro pass for Indian? Because the Indian is who they calling the Negro. And are listed by the United States Census Bureau as Indians. Plecker wails that the infamous racial integrity law of Virginia is being flouted by these Negro Indians. They didn't say Africans, they said by these Negro Indians, who presumably, and that's false because they're just American Indians, American Indians, period. But see, it's 1929 right now. So the descendants of Europeans are now calling themselves Americans as they are today. And understand, don't think for a minute that it's not identity theft, because it is. Just like everyone else who lands on these shores today, I don't care what part of the planet you come from. Whenever they come here, they go by whatever their country is, hyphen, and their surnation is always American. But you're not gonna go to their country and take their country name as your surnation. You're not gonna go to their country. You ain't going to their country. You're not going to China and becoming a American Chinese. You're not going to Saudi Arabia and becoming an American Saudi. You're not going to Ukraine and becoming an American Ukrainian. You'll be American wherever you go. Plecker wails that the infamous racial integrity law of Virginia is being flouted by these Negro Indians who presumably are intermarrying with so-called white people. The Census Bureau says a person who has Indian ancestry is an Indian, while Virginia says a person with one drop of Negro blood, whatever kind of blood that may be, is a Negro. It is all very interesting, especially when Melville Herskovitz, in his The American Negro, assures us that 27% of the American Negroes have Indian ancestry. He was also wrong. In one of his numerous pamphlets, Dr. Plecker himself assures us that there are no Indians in Virginia or North Carolina without some trace of Negro ancestry, owing to the fact that the two groups have as freely mixed with each other as they have with the whites since first they came in contact. We still don't know who a Negro is. We still don't know what country Negroes come from. Right? He said the American Negro assures that it says in one of his numerous pamphlets, Dr. Plecker himself assures us that there are no Indians in Virginia or North Carolina without some trace of Negro ancestry, owing to the fact that the two groups have as freely mixed with each other as they have with the whites since first they came in contact. He still said Negro. He didn't say African. Some that the Indians have African mixture, African blood. He said Negro. Where is Negro land? Yes, I've seen a map where a portion of Africa is called Negro land, but he didn't mention Africa. He keeps saying Negroes, and then he say Negroid, which all that means is that he sees you as such. It don't mean that's what it is. It don't mean that's what reality is. Again, the confusion is in his head, not yours. Indeed. And he say the two groups have as freely mixed with each other as they have with the whites since first they came in contact. Why do everybody always think people just mating with each other? He said as freely as they was mixing with the whites when they first came in contact. Didn't no nigga want no raggedy white person when they came over here. Why is they trying to act like when the so-called white people came over here that everybody who was here just was lining up because they just, oh my God, I never seen nothing like it. Most beautiful thing. Nah, come on, man. First of all, when they came over here, they came in contact with who they came in contact with. Second, they were where they were. Just like when they talk about, when early explorers talk about, the complexion and how some of our people looked when they saw them. Well, they may have saw 10, 11, 12, 15 of your people. They didn't see everybody else. All this mating stuff needs to stop, man, because it's not true, man. Nobody move on your block. No people from Hindustan move on your block, and all of a sudden now y'all all just mating together. Get out of here, man. Indeed, all of the FFVs boast of their descent. I don't know what the FFVs are. FFVs. Indeed, all of the FFVs, I have to look that up. Indeed, all of the FFVs boast of their descent from Pocahontas and Captain John Smith, or from other equally famous Indian chieftains. And according to Plecker, there have been no Indians untainted with Negro blood in the state for over a century. He just admitted that the Indians and the niggers is the same thing, and not that we need him to mention anything, because we don't care. He don't matter. Who is he? He like that. He like when your dog's sick and it's wintertime and it's snow out there and the dog got diarrhea and he use it in the snow and there's steam coming up from it. That's what he is. And he a vampire. So what does he matter? Listen. You already know what a Negro is in this context. They in America. Okay? They in the land of the American Indians. They in the land of the Negroes. You understand? He said, according to Plecker, there have been no Indians untainted with Negro blood in the state for over a century. And he ain't a century years old at that time, right? Thus, according to Virginia's one-drop law, the Richmond News Leader informed the world when the racial integrity law was being debated. The following debated, you didn't know it was being debated. You just thought it got passed. Bingo bango. The following distinguished Southerners, living and dead, must henceforth be classed among the sons of Ham. Oh, it says, thus, according to Virginia's one-drop law, the Richmond News Leader informed the world when the racial integrity law was being debated. The following distinguished Southerners, living and dead, must henceforth be classified among the sons of Ham. 2 United States senators, a United States ambassador to France, 5 generals, 2 presidents of the United States, 2 secretaries of war, 3 of the most distinguished of Southern novelists, 3 governors of Virginia, a speaker of the House of Representatives, 2 bishops, 3 congressmen, 1 rear admiral, 2 judges of the Virginia Supreme Court, and many of the foremost officers of the Confederate Army. Lieutenant, it says, first brief, Dr. Plecker and the state of Virginia have helped to make the race problem more of a laughingstock than it has ever been. The racial integrity law, based on the infamous one-drop theory, has made the question of race an interrogation point. According to it, no one can say definitely who is white, who is black, or who is red. And mind you, when they say red, they don't mean fire engine red, okay? They don't mean Remy red, okay? When they refer to red in reference to a human, they mean a more of a, I guess you could say, copper colored, sun-drenched human. There are millions of so-called white people in the country who are in reality Negroes by American standards. There are millions of so-called white people in the country who are in reality Negroes by American standards, while if the one-drop theory works both ways, at least 80% of the Negroes are Caucasians. If we are to believe E.B. Reuter, the distinguished sociologist and author of The American Race Problem, miscegenation of the Negro and white people in America dates from the first appearance of the Negroes. And speaking of the phenomenon in colonial days, he continues, but neither the severity of law nor the intolerance of public sentiment seem to have much effect on the miscegenation of the races. They prevented intermarriage rather than race mixture. If there were just 1,000 such cases with offspring in colonial days, the number of descendants today would be close to 70 million. Every person living today, according to Walter White. Oh, wait a minute. If there were just 1,000 such cases with offspring in colonial days, the number of descendants today would be close to 70 million. Every person living today, according to Walter White in Rope and Faggot, has over 65,000 ancestors going back 10 generations. On the strength of this reasoning, we are hoping that Dr. Plecker will not only be successful in having all Indians and their white relatives with Negro ancestry listed as Negro, but that he will be able to persuade all of the other states in the Union to investigate thoroughly the family trees of all white folk with a view to discovering whether any of their ancestors were Negroes. Yikes. We are in favor of a law that will make it necessary for every white person to prove without question of doubt, that he has no ancestors of Negro derivation for the past 15 generations. If the United States will just spend as much money enforcing such a law as it has spent trying to enforce the Volstead law, we are convinced that the race problem in America will be very shortly settled for all time. The science of genealogy can succeed where other heroic measures have failed. Amen. Amen. The Richmond Newsletter, Richmond, Virginia, Wednesday, January 15th, 1930. This is 1930. This is 6 years after the infamous Racial Integrity Act, Racial Integrity Theater. No reason for antagonism to Virginia Negro. Editor, The News Leader. This is The News Leader. Sir, agitation of the racial integrity law is again being conjured up as a bugaboo by John Powell, pianist and major Ernest Sevier Cox, in another attempt to destroy the racial identity of the Virginia Indian tribes and subject them to treatment as Negroes. In the latest effort, a bill to define who is a Negro person, which reads as follows: that any person in whom there is ascertainable any Negro blood shall be deemed and taken to be a Negro person. Notice the fact that the Indian is not mentioned, but in the offices of the Bureau of Vital Statistics under Dr. W.A. Plecker, the Indian of Virginia is classified as Negro. Did you know that? Let me read that one more time for you. And look, we're not trying to prove. I don't think you are trying to prove to anyone who you are. I'm not trying to prove to anyone who I am, right? You know who you is. We know who we is. You don't have to prove it to no one. Everyone knows. We just the last ones to arrive. We the last ones to get to the party. We fashionably late to the party. Smell me? Notice the fact that the Indian is not mentioned, but in the offices of the Bureau of Vital Statistics under Dr. W.A. Plecker. And guess what? Guess what? The people in these governmental institutions, they also know. Okay? Dr. Plecker worked for the Vital Statistics Office. Notice the fact that the Indian is not mentioned, but in the offices of the Bureau of, and listen, we haven't heard anything about Africa, right? You would think that people who came here from Africa, we was deep. They say we was deep when we came from Africa. You would think that, at least they would mention that, right? Notice the fact that the Indian is not mentioned, but in the offices of the Bureau of Vital Statistics under Dr. W.A. Walter Ashby Plecker, the Indian of Virginia is classified as Negro. Show over, close up, bye, go home. You ain't got to go. which within the meaning of the statutes, using the phrase or word in the southern states, is a Negro or one classified as such. Notice the cooperation of these fanatics. Will the citizens of our state allow the overzealousness of these three men to completely destroy these peaceable, law-abiding, sober, industrious, self-reliant, consistent church members? Church members? There is no real reasoning for the antagonism of Powell, Cox, and Plecker, as the white race is entirely protected by previous laws and as a connecting link with the romantic past of the Old Dominion. Our Indian remnant tribes constitute a valuable, tangible asset of the state of Virginia. In my opinion, as a student of Virginia Indian history, the argument, understand, ain't no Indian talking, right? Ain't no Injun talking, right? Homie saying my opinion as a student of Virginia Indian history. He ain't talking to no Injun. Where the Indians at? Where the Indians at? Where the interview with the Indian at? In my opinion, as a student of Virginia Indian history, the argument is, I don't know what that says. I guess the word was cut off. Okay, let's move on. By official recognition of the state on their side, by unbroken and connected history for over 3 centuries, and county authorities, the Census Office, and the War Department, and by preponderance of Indian blood, any ethnologist seeing them in a body would agree that the basis of the admixture is Indian. It is time that all such attempts must be stopped, and if Dr. W.A. Plecker will not classify these people as Indian, not white or Negro, we would suggest the new director of the Bureau of Vital Statistics. Virginia had the distinction of maintaining better racial relations than any other state of the Union until this gentleman was appointed to this office. I believe North Carolina now holds the honor. Shout out to North Carolina. As the Indian is classified by Dr. Plecker as colored, and colored meaning Negro, the word ascertainable in this new racial bill will give the Registrar of Vital Statistics the right to classify several thousand distinguished and prolific families descended from Indian mothers since 1619 as a colored person or Negro. Let's go over that again. That is curious. As the Indian is classified by Dr. Plecker as, listen, you right there, stop struggling, stop. As the Indian is classified by Dr. Plecker as colored, like on my great grandmama, like on my grandmama birth certificate, her mama is classified as colored. Her dad classified as colored, as well as myriad other relatives. As the Indian is classified by Dr. Plecker as colored, and colored meaning Negro, right? So now we know what Negro means. Damn. See how we get understanding that quick? We got some knowledge, understanding. Let's let the wisdom shine through. As the Indian is classified by Dr. Plecker as colored, and colored meaning Negro, the word ascertainable in this new racial bill will give the Registrar of Vital Statistics the right to classify several thousand distinguished and prolific families. Prolific families descended from Indian mothers since 1619. Now, 1619 was, this is the whole big movement, 1619, which they think this is the beginning of you. This is when you first came. This is when your your ancestors first got here, the 20 and odd Africans. Wait, it really said the 20 and odd Negroes or 20 and odd Negras. And listen, it says Dr. Plecker, as the Indian is classified by Dr. Plecker as colored, the Indian is classified as colored. Colored meaning Negro. Now go from Negro back to colored, back to Indian, right? 1619, 20 and odd negras, 20 and odd negars. Yes. Distinguished and prolific families descended from Indian mothers since 1619. So who are the people who arrived in 1619? Indian mothers. Yes. As a colored person or Negro. Preposterous and insulting. Preposterous and insulting. The advocates of racial integrity, by their amazing ignorance, are most cruel and will work any sort of injustice to justify the classification of Negro as applied to the Indian, which now exists in the Bureau of Vital Statistics. Will not all readers of this who desire to help and extend mercy to the Indian, instead of trying to cast down and destroy, enter your protest at once on their behalf to your representative, to the General Assembly, to protect the Indian tribes of Virginia, of our Tidewater section? Or better yet, leave us alone and pack your people up and go home. Bye. This is from Origin of Word Indian pertaining to American Indians. I Love Ancestry. I guess this is a blog or vlog or blog or something like that. I Love Ancestry. Origin of the Word Indian pertaining to American Indians. 15th through 18th century historical events. iloveancestry.com. It's a regular schmegler article published by I Love Ancestry. Not a real human, not a human. I don't know if this is even a human publishing this. I'm hoping it is, just, for humanity's sake. Do you know the true origin and meaning of the word Indian as it pertains to American Indians? Many people have argued that American Indian is not the correct term for our people. Oh, I'm assuming this person identifies as an American Indian. Who are the original inhabitants of Americas? Okay. Many assume that the word Indian comes from Christopher Columbus being lost at sea and him believing he was in India. So he decided to call our people Indians based on that. But the true history of the origin of the word Indian has nothing to do with India or its people, but originate with our indigenous peoples of Western Hemisphere. Was India known by its original peoples as the Indies or India prior to 1492? No, India was not the true name as used by the people of that anomalous name in the 1400s. The etymology of the term India from Latin India, region of Indus River, later used in the region and beyond from Indus River, from Old Pers. Hindu, the name for the from Latin India, from Greek India, region, province of Sind, from Sanskrit Sindhu, river. The more common form was Yindi or Indi, from FR, see Indies, from French, see Indies. India, the term Indies, began to prevail circa 16th century, 1501 to 1600, under Spanish or Portuguese influence. Beyond the reality that indigenous people of India did not refer to their domains as such, even at the time of the infamous Columbus. The name India was not in use until the 16th century. As seen and stated by its own people, India has been called Bharat. Even in Satya Yuga, Golden Age, the name India is derived by later invading entities from the river Indus, the valleys around which were the home of the early settlers. The original pre-Christian Aryan celebrants referred to the river Indus as the Sindhu. Persian invaders converted it into Hindu. The name Hindustan combines Sindhu and Hindu, and thus freely infers the land of the Hindus. Thus, at the time of Columbus, India was known by the Persian epithet, variously Hindus and Hindustan. In the Latin language of ecclesiastics and royalty of the time, the people or children of God, as Spaniards often refer to the indigenous, translates freely as Los Niños de la Indio. And one other thing about the Hindu spiel, I asked a human that is born and raised and whose ancestry is from the soil portion that today is known as India. I asked this human, do the good people of what is termed India today call it that? And this human told me that in the north, they call it Hindustan. In the south, they call it Bharati. And I asked, well, where is it called India? And I was told that in the tourist sections, in the touristy parts, it's called India. So I asked this human. So I said, when you refer to it, you say India as well. Why do you say India? This human said, well, it's been said so much, and I'm so used to hearing it that, I say it too, even though it's not true. In the Latin language of ecclesiastics and royalty of the time, the people or children of God, as Spaniards often refer to indigenous, translates freely as Los Niños de la Indio, and consequently Los Niños de la Indios, more literally children of God. Indio, freely of God. No country, land, sea, or people in the world were named India prior to 1492. First of all, how would they know? Prior to how would just like say for instance your people come from Tuscaloosa. Your people come from Tuscaloosa. And your family stayed there. They always been there. They never moved. 300-400 years ago, 600 years ago, they called themselves something amongst one another. Only they know what they called themselves. Later on, names started changing, terms started changing. As we can see with the Vital Statistics Office, laws start influencing what people refer to themselves as. So if people called themselves something, how would anyone know what that was if they didn't tell them? I'm just trying to say, when this person who's doing this article says prior to 1492, No country, land, sea, or people in the world were named India prior to 1492. That's questionable. The Eurasian domains of India and the various autonomous indigenous domains were prior to and at the time of 1492 known by their various proper designations as Hindustan, Turkestan, Kurdistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, etc., as designated by their varied original indigenous people. Hence the question if the slang referent Indies and its consequent Indio did not surface in popular use among Spanish and Portuguese lingua until the 16th century, how could Columbus possibly spoon forth from his mouth in 1492? Maybe when he came here, the people told him that. How about that? Within one of many trips back to Spain from the Americas to plead with King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella for the souls and lives of the indigenous peoples, to plead for the souls and lives of the indigenous peoples. What does that mean? Sheesh. Then swiftly disappearing under the subjugating sword, disease, and slavery of the Spaniards and Portuguese, Las Casas summarily informs the royal heads of Castile, Spain, that upon observing the nature and manners of the indigenous peoples of Guyana, or Hani, the island that Columbus first visited, that their manners are decorous and praiseworthy. They are guileless and honest, with no vices among them. They have no thieves or liars among them, and they give freely of all that they have. And when they have no more to give, they cry, he continues. They are truly as the children of God, i.e., Los Niños de la Indio. And understand, these are the people who he came in contact with. Okay? So when he's talking about a certain group of people, it's that group of people. We all different. The people in Guyana or Guyana may be slightly different from the people in Louisiana. Just like the people in New York is a little different from the people in Cali. Put it into perspective. Indio, of God, and Los Niños, the children of, in the Latin tongue of the day, the expression children of God is freely translated as, in the feminine form, La Niñas de la Indio, and the masculine form, Los Niños de la Indio, children of God, a term later corrupted by the aberrant Spaniard tongue as Los Niños de la Indio, then ultimately reaching contemporary ears as Indio, then Indianer like Indiana, and Indian. Let's clear something up. Why is it always that people assume the European came up with something? Why is that? When they are the very ones that take everything. Why would you assume that anything came from them? Or why wouldn't you question it at least? See, again, we ain't gonna settle for nothing but all the way. The inhabitants were called Los Niños de la Indio, children of God, by Columbus. Source compiled by Sonia Braxton, based on materials from Illuminating the Historic and Contemporary Path by David Michael Wolfe, and Speech for America to Live, Europe Must Die by Russell Means, 1980, Black Hills International Survival Gathering, South Dakota. So this is from two sources: Illuminating the Historic and Contemporary Path by David Michael Wolff, and A Speech for American to Live, Europe Must Die by Russell Means, 1980. And Russell Means, that name sounds familiar. I think he's an actor who used to act like a Native American. I'm not sure, I could be wrong. It just sounds familiar. Published by I Love Ancestry. I Love Ancestry is a global issue advocacy campaign that explores identity, diversity, heritage, and culture, highlighting the experiences of marginalized people and indigenous communities around the world. And I thought this was interesting. After what was just spoken of, it says you may also like this. Yep. America's Choctaw Code Talkers, Choctaw Nation, or Chata. I just found that interesting. Rochester Daily Union, Rochester, New York, Tuesday, September 25th, 1854. Now, you remember, we started off at 1924 with the Racial Integrity Act or theater, right? And, we kind of moved along in the 1920s. People were sending old Walter Ashby, Ashy Ashby, Walter Ashy Ashby, sending him letters saying they was going to get at him, saying they was going to do something to him. Y'all remember that? And see, now we going to go a little bit further back than that. Rochester Daily Union, Rochester, New York, Tuesday, September 26th. September 26, 1854. Two tribes of Nigger Indians had a pitched battle in American Flat, Eldora, Colorado. Two tribes of Nigger Indians had a pitched battle in American Flat, Eldora, Colorado. Now understand, Nigger and Indians is the same thing. Now we know it's properly American Indians, and more specifically what your people called themselves, and what they taught you that you should call them. And then they your people so graciously gave you a name that means something for you to carry with you. How you carrying it? So when we say Nigger Indians, this ain't derogatory. It's just speaking about some people. It's letting you know we talking about the Americans. The only Americans it ever was, is, and will be. We don't mess with Negro. We don't mess with Black, African American. Copper colored is okay. We don't mess with mulatto, but we mess with Nigger Indians, right? Two tribes of Nigger Indians had a pitched battle in American Flat, Eldora, Colorado. Go look up Eldora, Colorado. Check it out. Interesting story. Interesting history of Eldora, Colorado. The Daily Evening Express, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Thursday, May 6, 1858. That last article, this one was from the Rochester Daily Union, Rochester, New York, Tuesday, September 26, 1854. This one is from the Daily Evening Express, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Thursday, May 6, 1858. And if you noticed, The way they spell is different from the way you spell. Not saying that putting spells on people is good, but when we speak about English and American, you have to understand we speak a different form of English. As a matter of fact, our American is just sprinkled with English. That's why all the people who come here to take your stuff understand what you saying, because your language is sprinkled with English. And you know, the Urban Dictionary online, you thought they just liked the way you say stuff. No, they put the Urban Dictionary so they can understand what you time out. Understand what you and your people time out. So this says California legislation. Check out how they spell California legislation. California legislation. The following is said to be a literal copy of a bill drawn up and about to be introduced into California Assembly by an honest miner, a member of the lower house, an act to prevent niggers coming to California. Sheesh. I'm talking about, man, foreigners. I'm talking about foreigners coming to your house, getting comfortable. Now they walking around barefoot, leaving a ring around the tub. And now they want you to leave. They done got so comfortable, they want you to leave. The people of the state of California, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. As followers. It says as followers. No nigger, not now an inhabitant of, in, and legal voter in this state shall be permitted to live, reside, or stay in this state any longer. Any nigger who willfully or accidentally violates the first section of this act shall be transported from this state and sold to the lowest bidder. He said the lowest bidder, not highest bidder, the lowest bidder. Chinamen excluded. They say the Chinamen can stay. The plains Chinos can stay. The Romans can stay. But you niggers who willfully or accidentally violate the first section of this act shall be transported from this state and sold to the lowest bidder, meaning jail. Niggers who come with their masters to sojourn temporarily shall not be, or niggers who come with a job to sojourn temporarily shall not be included in the provisions of this act, because money talk. Okay. Provided such sojourning don't exceed 40 years. You can't be here for longer than 40 years in California. You know, your place, the place that your people was at. They came as foreigners there. They newcomers. If any ship gets wrecked on the shores of this state with a nigger on board, and if such nigger shall try to swim, he shall be pushed under the water. All acts or parts of acts contravening this is repealed. All acts or parts of acts contravening this is repealed. Enacting clause. A nigga is hereby declared an obnoxious nuisance, not to be permitted, and every sheriff in this state may be a nigga driver if he chooses. I'm telling you, hey, y'all must have done something to them people, man. Think, man, y'all people must have done something to them people, man. They tired of y'all, man. They was tired of y'all. The Standard Times, New Bedford, Massachusetts, Friday, February 5th, 1864. 1864, do you know where your people were in 1864? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. I know where a lot of people, well, I don't know their daily life, but, I know some of their movements in around 1864. Police court before Judge Borden, Friday, February 5th, 1864. The dock was occupied today. The dock was occupied today by a variety, independent, sheepish, dignified, smirking, fidgety, sleepy, black, white, ring streaked and speckled, milk and man, we gotta say this again, man. These punks be they tripping, man. And they funny, man. This is comedy, man. Police court before Judge Borden, Friday, February 5th. This is the court, man. This is in court, man, before the judge, man. Disgusting. Disgusting institution. The dock was occupied today. The dock was occupied today by a variety, independent, sheepish, dignified, smirking, fidgety, sleepy, black, white, ring streaked and speckled, milk and molasses, red, purple, goose grease, and green, cross-eyed, and Indian and nigger Indians. The dock was occupied today by a variety, independent, sheepish, dignified, smirking, fidgety, sleepy, black, white, ring-streaked and speckled, milk and molasses, red, purple, goose grease, and green, cross-eyed, and nigger Indians. Urbana Union, Urbana, Ohio, Wednesday, December 6th, 1865. Urbana Union newspaper, Urbana, Ohio. A lot of my people went to Ohio. They was leaving. A lot of people was leaving Kentucky, going to Indiana, Ohio, stuff like that, man. Alabama, going to Chicago. Oh, man. Urban Union, Urbana, Ohio. Urbana Union newspaper, Wednesday, December 6, 1865. Bombardment of Boston. George Francis Train on the Bostonians and the Puritans. He pays off an old score. George Francis Train made a speech before the Father Matthew Society in Music Hall, Boston on the 13th, in which he pays his respects to the New Englanders as follows. What about Boston? Yes, and laughter. What about Boston? Yes, and laughter. I will tell you what I think. Boston knocked me down 3 years ago. I intended to knock Boston up before I finish. Laughter and applause. I always pay my bills. Let me make a confession. My maternal ancestor was in Boston on that interesting occasion. Hence, I am a Bostonian. Laughter. It was my misfortune, not my fault. I apologize to all whom it may concern for the accident. Laughter. Corny joke. Laughter. The more I think of it, the meaner I feel. I once thought that Bostonians were 8 feet high. Maybe they were. I now see them as others see them. Boston is a sink of iniquity. Give me a tall steeple and a white cravat, and I could take the coin off a white man's eyes and be praised for it in Boston. Loud laughter. Boston has 40 banks, 40 factories, 40 insurance companies, 40 railways, and there are 40 thieves who manage the whole concern. Applause and cries of, "That's so." Ye pilgrim fathers, though ye lie. Emphasis, you see, is on the word lie. Ye pilgrim fathers, though ye lie. Emphasis, you see, is on the word lie. Laughter. Perchance, in graves unknown, a memory that cannot die hath claimed ye for its own. A sacredness to that black shore, to that bleak shore. Your dust shall impart, your requiem the ocean's roar, your tomb a nation's heart. That was one of my stock quotations on the 4th of July before I found them out. I take it all back now. The Pilgrim Fathers were a lot of swindlers. They did not pay their bills before they left England. They had a row on the wharf before they embarked from Boston, England. They threw the cook overboard going to Holland. Loud laughter. The moment they learned the language, they began to call the people Amsterdam Dutch, Rotterdam Dutch, and other damn Dutch, till they could stand it no longer. Applause and laughter. Again, they embarked. The King of Holland bribed the captain not to land the cantankerous lot at Manhattan, as it would ruin New York. So the well-paid skipper dumped them down on Plymouth Rock, the New England Blarney Stone. Good, and applause. You know the rest. Burning, hanging, persecuting, each man went his own way. See how crooked the streets are. They worked 10 hours a day to attend their own business and had 2 hours and a half to spare to attend other people's business. They are an ignorant lot. Noah would never have succeeded in finding a pair fit for seed. Laughter and applause. Their merchants gamble at the clubs till 4 o'clock Sunday morning. And at 11, you will see them bending over a prayer book at church, Suffolk, Tremont, West Street. Sensation, and I believe it, was the sentiment from the crowd. They have holes in the wall where they drink on the sly. Yes, on State Street, and laughter. There are more Cyprians in this city than any of its size in America. The father goes in at one door, his son at another, by agreement. Walk on Tremont Road tonight and see for yourself. Loud laughter. They are a race of toadies. Their merchants toady to Barings. Their judges toady to the Queen's Bench. Their Harvard University toadies to Cambridge and Oxford. Their politicians toady to Exeter Hall. Boston is the shadow of England. Their cruelty to their young men, never advancing their fortunes, never taking them into the firm until they are worn out with their seedy property, are portrayed in Young America in Wall Street. Applause. There are no Americans in this city. The most respectable part of the population are the Irish. Loud applause. The Irish build their railways, their factories, their warehouses, and saved Massachusetts from repudiating like Mississippi by buying the script of the Western Railway. Good for Ireland and loud cheers. The Irish are the most intelligent because they believe in the superiority of the white race over the black. 3 cheers for white men. The 50,000 Irish in Boston, all patriots. They love the Union. They respect the Constitution. They never preach nigger in the pulpit. I wish to talk with the Irish, whom I respect, instead of toadies, whom I do not respect. But I solemnly swear I will never speak in that nigger tabernacle belonging to Charles Sumner, known as Faneuil Hall. Cheers. The American Revolution was a failure. Self-independence in politics meant toadyism in commerce, banking, and social life. Thomas Coley Grattan is dead. I reviewed him severely on Civilized America. I will publish someday his letters to me. He knew Boston as a stranger better than I as a native. Boston is now the Salem of New York. Her live men have immigrated. Honeybees go abroad. The drones stay home. Laughter. New England is Boston. The other states don't amount to anything. Boston has 12 senators and 40 representatives, but her power has passed away forever. Her bigotry, ignorance, and fanaticism arise from their miserable system of preaching nigger in the pulpit and reading one nigger newspaper. Loud laughter. In this biographical sketch of my dear native city, I beg to accept all those who consider a white man as good as a nigger. Laughter and cheers. 3 years ago, after I was imprisoned by the Boston fanatics for daring to reply to Sumner in Faneuil Hall on his invitation, I addressed the Irish American voters of Boston in this very hall. From this very stage, something like this. I am a white man. My hair is curly. My complexion is dark. Yet I am white. Yet I am a white man. That is my misfortune, not my fault. Laughter. My mother was white. So was my father. My children are all white. Yes, I stand before you as a representative of a black country. Boston is a nigger city. Massachusetts, a nigger state. My people are nigger holders. We have nigger merchants, nigger banks, nigger lawyers, nigger railways, and nigger brokers. Laughter. The Negro brokers in State Street sell stock for the Negro insurance companies. We have nigger churches and nigger clergymen and strong-minded nigger women who furnish ammunition for the nigger pulpits. Laughter. I am a man and a brother. I was born like most of you, free and equal. But though some strange oversight over which I had no control, my ancestors were all white people. Laughter and applause. The Pilgrim Fathers, you are aware, were all niggers. Laughter. But my ancestors, like my Irish friend, had a boat of their own. Laughter and cheers. Black men, Mr. Sumner says, are created in the image of their maker. Now, as I am a white man, it follows that I was not created in that way. Cheers and laughter. We have nigger shipbuilders, nigger factories, nigger lines to California, nigger regiments, and nigger brigadier generals. Applause. The the nigger crops up. As our chairman said in the advertiser, in all the paths of life, the nigger in the fence has quietly walked into the meeting house, the Senate and parlor. Applause. The disease is consuming the old nigger state. Our nigger doctors fail to discover the nigger's diagnosis. Loud laughter. We have a nigger poet, a nigger editor, and a nigger governor. Applause. Don't applaud too quick, who were born in Maine. Laughter and applause. I wish you had them back again. In the shop windows, you see nigger spoken here. In the shop windows, you see nigger spoken here. Over the door of our harbor, as Motley writes in the Dutch Republic, are these words: no admittance except on nigger business. We have a nigger university that organized itself years ago in a nigger mutual admiration society constituted for the dissolution of the Union, calling it a covenant with the nigger headquarters. Laughter. The English nigger, George Thompson, was sent here by nigger hypocrites to destroy our empire. Thompson himself is a friend of America and has stood by us for the Union. He was the tool of the anti-slavery party who made use of his eloquence as so much a lecture. Our nigger Harvard College was ambitious of nigger European fame. So authors, editors, historians, poets married nigger wives. And until then was born nigger children. Hence we have a race of little nigger poets who are educated at nigger Latin schools and grow up little nigger poets. Laughter and applause. Little nigger historians were made in the same nigger mold, and nigger editors grew up putting each other on the shoulder saying, you are a nigger poet, you a nigger historian, you a nigger editor. All these Negro productions were published by a nigger house well known to nigger fame. The little nigger editor of the Boston Transcript, who was elevated himself from selling pens on Washington Street to $800 salary in his little newspaper, would insert the little nigger reviews and nigger criticism on the little nigger books. These nigger worshippers had Nigger Club, a nigger Atlantic monthly where none but nigger articles were inserted. Fields is a good fellow, but is the only white man in the firm. These nigger writers craved European notoriety, European fame, and by it came to pass that they wrote their own nigger criticism on their own nigger works. When the nigger poet or nigger authors got out on the new nigger book, he took his nigger letters introduction to the nigger Sutherland or the nigger Brougham. Laughter and applause. With the nigger endorsement on the nigger title ensured at the nigger mutual. Loud cheers. The little nigger paper would give a splendid notice of the departure for England of the nigger traveler. But buttering each other up, these nigger worshippers have made the world believe that the nigger Boston State House is the nigger hub of the nigger solar system. Laughter. Our nigger Jack Downing poet praises our nigger Excelsior poet. And our nigger publisher prints the monthly, and all the niggers go to Parker's to palaver weekly over their nigger Blarney. The old nigger state is now immortal with the nigger Concord, a nigger Lexington, and a nigger Bunker Hill. Cheers. Our nigger Faneuil Hall is full of nigger pictures, a nigger Adams, a nigger Otis, a nigger Hancock, and a nigger Webster. Cheers, laughter, and applause. The immense audience enter into the spirit of the satire and appreciating the sledgehammer blows at the nigger party. Boston is famous as the birthplace of the nigger Franklin. And it was there that the nigger merchants threw overhead the nigger tea. Applause and laughter. The nigger author belongs to the nigger mutual. She likes the nigger senator and wears men's clothes at the nigger club dinners. Laughter and applause. I refer you to the stock books of the nigger mutual. Laughter and cheers. To continue, the old nigger state was represented by nigger representatives and the nigger senators, and the nigger politicians eat up the nigger spoils of office. And the land became like Egypt when the locusts came. Those Negro artifacts erected a Negro town of Babel, expecting to reach in this way some nigger White House. Laughter and applause. Just as the nigger mutual at Harvard had brought on a nigger war and killed many thousand soldiers and involved the country in a great nigger debt. Just as the tower was being completed, some mysterious influence, some people call it patriotism, came into Massachusetts and confused the workmen so that the fabric was leveled to the ground, to the dismay of the entire stock company of Nigger Mutual. Cheers and applause. I remember a beautiful nigger smile that will apply to the thought thrown out. Go with me into the green field. See that great flat cold stone on the green sward. Put your bar under it. Dig it up. What a sight is there. Those clumsy bugs, those horrid lizards. See them scatter to their holes. Observe that black beetle start to its den. Those filthy worms crawl along their slime. That flat insect and bloated viper, the nigger mutual, were happy in their dirty habits, in their dirty habitations. The large flat stone is carried away. Return with me another year. Look at the spot, what a change, how sweet the roses, the violets there. See the new grass and the beautiful daisies, how pretty, how beautiful, the scent of the flowers, the tint of the grasses, all speak of a new life and a better spirituality. Cheers. That old flat stone is the abolition party. It is being removed by the voice of the people, and the sunshine of God will soon warm the soil once more and bless with hope my native land, so that my country may be once more proud of the white man's hallowed associations in the old Bay State. Loud and continued applause. By the by, this flat stone illustration was stolen by Ann Dickinson word for word in her speech last year in the House of Representatives. Washington, the newspapers giving her credit for a wonderful smile. I stole it from Oliver Wendell Holmes. I do not know where he got it. Laughter and applause. The most immoral city on this continent is Boston, the nigger city of the Puritans, as the Honorable Benjamin Wood, who has shown more sagacity in his position than all the fossil politicians that prop up the circumscribed concern, the New York work. stated in Congress, the Mayflower, after landing the Pilgrim jailbirds, laughter and cheers, was dispatched for a cargo of slaves, loud laughter. Fernando Wood also stated that 80% of the first cargoes of slaves landed at Charleston were owned in Boston. There is one thing all will admit: Boston is the only city that has the audacity to support an obscene newspaper. Cries of "that's so" and "shame." I do not expect this speech to be reported in the Boston nigger papers, nor do I wish it. Bars. The Herald News. Fall River, Massachusetts, Friday, July 22nd, 1870. The Herald News newspaper, Fall River, Massachusetts, Friday, July 22nd, 1870. It's always been about you. In Nevada, a contemplative nigger Indian sat watching a party of baseball players who seemed to him to be working very hard. Turning to one of them, he asked, "How much you get one day? How much you get in one day?" He asking him about. He all in his pockets, man. He watching this. He checking his pocket. He trying to see what he make. He might suit up. He might become a part of the baseball team. In Nevada, a contemplative nigger Indian sat watching a party of baseball players who seemed to him to be working very hard. Turning to one of them, he asked, "How much you get one day?" The Telegraph Courier newspaper, Kenosha, Wisconsin. See, we all over America. You hear me? We all over America. It's fascinating that all these places have newspapers. And the stories that they capture are of regular schmegula degular people. They are they are about the people of the land, the Americans, who they're referring to as nigger Indians. Well, we know it's properly just Americans or American Indians. Or better yet, call the people by their names. The Telegraph Courier newspaper, Kenosha, Wisconsin, Thursday, March 14th, 1872. There is a nigger Indian boy employed on a sheep ranch in Monterey County, California, who is a human curiosity. He herds about 800 sheep all by himself. There is a nigger Indian boy employed on a sheep ranch in Monterey County, Cal, who is a human curiosity. He herds about 800 sheep all by himself. And the overseer says he knows every one of them by sight. And when he brings them in at night, he will get on the coral fence and tell whether one of them is missing. He is about 14 and has a face as round as the moon, and the brightest black eyes which fairly sparkle with mischief. He turns more somersaults and hangs head downward from more trees than any man can count readily, and seems hardly to be aware of the existence of the sheep during the day, yet brings them all in at night. Fascinating. The News and Herald newspaper, Winsboro, South Carolina, Thursday, June 3rd, 1880. The News and Herald newspaper, Winsboro, South Carolina, Thursday, June 3rd, 1880. This was a stumper. So Moran Potts was called up to see what she had to say. When asked if she did not know what a serious crime it was to marry a second time while her husband was living, she looked as innocent as a country girl sent out to milk the cows and said, Let me, squire. I didn't know as it mattered. John, he's up and left me. And he never was much account anyhow. Then you could stoop to marry a nigger Indian? I don't know nothing about nigger Indian, but he's got a good place already provided. And so far as I've seen, he's a good man. And I'd a heap rather have a smart Indian that would give me a good place to live than a poor, shankled, no-account white man that runs away. But didn't you know if you married him, it would be a state's prison offense? Yes, I suppose it might be. But I thought I could just as well get a divorce after, when I'd have more time. As no crime had been committed, they were discharged. Clyde Voice, Republican, Clyde, Kansas, Thursday, March 12th, 1891. 1891. Clyde, Kansas. We all over America. We all over America. And all over America, it was nigger Indians. And all over America today is nigger Indians. Sprinkled with a bunch of foreigners from all manner of places on the planet. An unlucky individual in Clyde who was persuaded to invest in some of the Afro-Indian dope for the purpose of curing a headache. After taking repeated doses of the hogwash, he got worse until it was necessary to call a physician to save his life. The Afro-Indian dope for the purpose of curing a headache. What kind of dope he did? He did a dope for a headache? Did he do the dope and after he came down, the headache came back? San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco, California, Thursday, September 20th, 1894. Thursday, September 20th, 1894. 1894. When was the civil rights movement and all that stuff? 1965. When was Emancipation Proclamation, like 1865 or something like that? 1863. That's when slavery was over. That's when working was over. You ain't have to work no more. You don't have to work for nobody no more. What? I don't know what that was about. That was about taxes, right? But I'm just saying it was 1863, 1865. Civil rights movement, 1965. Just trying to have a timeline put into perspective when all this stuff happening. San Francisco Chronicle newspaper, San Francisco, California, Thursday, September 20th, 1894. Old King Blue. Old King Blue, the leader of a Chickasaw revolt. Negro Indians under his control maintain a reign of terror. Special dispatch to the Chronicle. Wichita, Kansas, September 19th. A special to the Eagle by way of Sasakwa, Wiwaka, and Tecumseh from Stonewall in the Chickasaw Nation brings information to the effect that King Blue, the leader of the Chickasaw Negro Indians, is in open rebellion. The insurrectionists have gone out on a marauding tour and are terrorizing the Indian citizens, and especially the squaw men, which are, I guess, white men. Last Saturday, the band headed by King Blue swept down on the farm of George H. Troe, postmaster at Stonewall. The Negroes came down on the farm in midday. Troe, a white man, and his squaw were led from the house and bound with rope and held prisoners. King Blue and his band then proceeded to destroy everything in the house they could not eat and drink, and after satisfying themselves, rode off howling and screeching. Neighbors found Traw and his wife and released them. Other Indian citizens have been similarly treated, and the eastern part of the Chickasaw Nation is in a state of terror. The Chickasaw government is thinking of taking steps to put them out as intruders. This could be done under the Chickasaw or United States laws, as the Negroes have no legal right to lands in the Chickasaw Nation and are not even adopted citizens. Well, I wouldn't think so. With a name like King Blue, yeah, I don't think he is an adopted citizen of nowhere. I think he's sprouted up from this American soil. King Blue, while an old man, is very strong physically and a natural leader of surprising tact. He was chosen king of the Negro Indians shortly after the war, and he exercises an absolute tyranny over his followers. They said he was chosen king of the Negro Indians shortly after the war. Now, this is 1894, so it says shortly after the war. So you put two and two together. The Savannah Morning News. The Savannah Morning News newspaper, Savannah, Georgia. We in Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, Sunday, November 18th, 1894, the same year that King Blue was on something. King Blue, 1894, September 20th. Okay. That's when that was reported. I assume it happened somewhere around there. Sunday, November 18th, 1894. The Savannah Morning Newspaper, Savannah, Georgia. Yankee Joe, a nigger Indian. Cherokee Bill, a half-breed. Harry Munson, Chicken Lucas, Skeeter Baldwin, and a half dozen others also joined. And in a few days, the gang was ready for business. Their first crime was the robbery of an old man named Marling. But it was not until the attempted holdup of Paymaster Starr that much was heard of them. The Portland Daily Press, Portland, Maine. Yeah, your people, your people wasn't no shuffling along. Yowza mouth. Your people, what? That wasn't your people. You ain't that today. Why would you think your people was that yesterday? Your people wasn't a bending over type. You understand? The Portland Daily Press newspaper, Portland, Maine, Friday, April 23rd, 1897. The Portland Daily Press, Portland, Maine, Friday, April 23rd, 1897. The Senate amendment for the establishment of warehouses for Indian supplies at Omaha provoked debate. The amendments to the amendment that sound like the political Washington type Congress type shit on it. The amendments to the amendment were all voted down, and by a vote of 56 to 57, the House refused to concur. The amendment changing the Indian Supply Department from Chicago to Omaha. The amendments making an appropriation of $3,900 for the nigger Indians of California and relating to the Cherokee citizenship rolls were all agreed to. Mr. Dingley made a point of order which was sustained against the amendment for 2 additional judges for the Indian Territory. The amendment was non-concurred in. When the amendment relating to the opening of the uncampaign Compagre Indian Reservation, Uncompahgre Indian Reservation was reached, Mr. Sherman moved non-concurrence. Boston Evening Transcript newspaper, Boston, Massachusetts, Thursday, August 17th, 1899. Boston Evening Transcript newspaper, Boston, Massachusetts, Thursday, August 17th, 1899. The self-complacent American replies, "We are more civilized than the Spaniard." The self-complacent American replies, "We are more civilized than the Spaniard. Our purposes are benevolent. Our government in the long run will be better for these Malays than any they can devise. Are you sure?" So said the slaveholders of their slaves before the war. And Lincoln's answer is the everlasting truth. No man is good enough to govern another without that other's consent. And Lincoln's answer is the everlasting truth. No man is good enough to govern another without that other's consent. Yeah? You consent. You vote. You support. You go to the polls. You stand in line. You consent to be governed, to be controlled. Govern means control. You consent. Lincoln's answer is the everlasting truth. No man is good enough to govern another without that other's consent. As evidence of our own benevolence, we call them niggers or Indians. As evidence of our own benevolence, we call them niggers or Indians, and always rebels. Words redolent of kindness and respect. And in the same breath, we promise them in general phrase good government. Listen to that. Listen. As evidence of our benevolence, we call them niggers or Indians, and always rebels. Words redolent of kindness and respect, and in the same breath, we promise them in general phrase good government. Were you Filipinos, would you believe the promise, or would you recall the fate of niggers and Indians and the government which they enjoy today? Do you in your hearts believe these promises yourselves? Dare you undertake to secure for natives of distant Luzon what you cannot give to the colored man at the South, or to the Indian upon our plains, or the Native American upon our plains, or maybe the Indian? Editors and speakers like Mr. John Barrett tells us wonderful tales of the wealth which these islands will bring us, and of their value as a stepping stone to further Eastern conquest. They dwell upon what we shall gain, but their charity ends where it begins. They speak of the Filipinos as savages, unfit to govern themselves or others, and dwell upon their many defects. I find in their articles little trace of sympathy with these people, of intelligent effort to deal with their difficulties, of any consideration for their rights. nigger, or savage sums up our benevolence in a word. We ask them, in fact, to surrender unconditionally and take such government as we think fit for savages. This is our exact offer, unless indeed they are not savages, in which case the policy of conquest is left without its principal excuse. Is there an American who would not rather die than accept these terms? Are not the Filipinos right? We ain't gonna settle for nothing but all the way. Do the right thing.